Let me ask you a question. As believers of Jesus today, should we keep the Passover feast? Yes or no? In 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 8, Paul says that since Christ, our Passover lamb, was sacrificed, then let us keep the feast. In other words, his answer was, we should celebrate the Passover meal. Now, some may argue that the whole context is spiritualized, it's all symbolic. Then what's the relevance of a feast that is symbolic if you cannot practice it? What is the relevance of Paul saying that we should get rid of the yeast, of the bread, if all of this was purely symbolic? You see, Paul was encouraging us to get rid of all the symbolic wrong things in our hearts through the feast of the Passover. Now you may say, okay, let us celebrate this Passover. But what's the relevance for me since I am not Jewish, you may say? Well, I encourage you to at least once in your lifetime to be part of a Passover meal. It will be an incredible spiritual experience for you because you're going to see all kinds of connection between Christ and all the symbolic elements of the Passover meal. Whether it's the afikomen, you know, this piece of matzah that is being hidden in a house, whether it's the empty seat of Elijah the prophet, whether it's this bone of a lamb that represents a Passover lamb, whether it's the 4 cups of the Passover meals, everything is richly teaching us an incredible connection with Jesus, our Messiah. So just for that alone, that is worth celebrating the Passover. Another reason why you should reconsider the whole perspective about the Passover is that it will help you to see the Lord's Supper in a very different way. I just remind you that the Lord's Supper was taken within the context of a Passover meal. Usually when we think of the Lord's Supper, most believers have a very individualistic, very personal experience of it. It's all about me being holy, seeing the Lord, and so forth. Whereas the Passover meal is leading us to have a very collective experience. Let me show you how much of a group experience it was. First of all, it was a biblical command that everybody had to participate in the Passover meal. It was a command. So even today, all the Jews together once a year, they invite all the family, they have friends, their neighbors, even outsiders, foreigners, poor, everybody has to be included. In fact, if you didn't even have any money, the Talmud would say that you would have to take charity money for it so that everybody will be included in this celebration. In fact, the whole process of the Passover meal is a very collective experience. Questions are being asked to the children, the Haggadah is being recited, songs are being sung all together. There is this illustration about the 4 sons that all represent the body of Israel, you know, a good one, a bad one who doesn't know how to ask questions, another one who is very simple. In fact, the bad son even is the one who excludes himself from the community, showing how much everybody is included in this experience. In fact, the best part of the whole meal, obviously, is that they are smelling the food. They are eating the food that could be either bitter or sweet, to remind us that we were slaves together in Egypt, that in Egypt we suffered together, that in Egypt we were mistreated, but God delivered us together and redeemed us as a nation. So it's a very strong collective experience. In fact, all the Jewish feasts all have that one thing in common. Our enemies wanted to destroy us. God redeemed us. So now let us eat. So what does this collective experience of Passover have anything to do with the Lord's Supper today? Well, first of all, in the context of 1 Corinthians 11, when Paul is saying that we should discern the body, unlike what many believers, in my view, wrongly understand, I don't think Paul was just saying that we should just see Jesus on the cross or have some kind of mystical experience. He's talking about the body being the body of Christ, the church. In other words, saying, you are mistreating each other. You're not waiting on each other. There are poor among you. There are divisions among you. That's why you're not seeing the body, the group. And he says that is why you have a judgment against you. Paul is encouraging us to see the big picture, that we are, we belong to each other. And that's why he's saying within that context, let's think about each other. Let's love each other. Let's forgive each other. Let's have good relationship with each other. That is the whole purpose of the Lord's Supper within the greater context of the Passover meal.